All right, good evening, maybe good morning, maybe good afternoon, whenever, wherever you may be on this planet. And we are ready to do this AMA, Skitles AMA, with Mr. Cody Willard. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. I am texting a couple of my dear friends who love space and crypto at the last moment here, saying, "Hey, stop buying stock some space stuff with and space and crypto."
Yeah.
How are
So, I
you,
mean,
Cabana Crypto?
what's that?
How are you, Cabana Crypto? You
I
good?
I am good. I am
All right.
good. Excited to um, you know, answer any questions that we might get this evening and maybe go over some basics for since this is our first stream for those that maybe not don't know a lot about this.
Over some basics for
The thoughts behind it and
Sorry.
no, it's all right. I was just listening to myself talk, but and yeah, sounded pretty good. And yeah, just get some facts out there, and hopefully, we get some more people interested in what I think is a truly innovative and it has a use case to it as well. I mean, things, people like things that go up in price, but this also has a cause
Oh,
behind it.
that's
And yeah, good.
that's. I do think that is the single most revolutionary part of crypto, aside from Bitcoin replacing currency, fiat currency, as the de facto standard on the planet. But I think what crypto has helped create that has never been able to, because of smart chains and open contracts, we've got the ability at smart contracts. We have blockchain and smart contracts. We have the ability to create incentive of profit motive, like with Skitles. Anybody who owns Skitles hopes it goes up higher and hopes you get more because there's more space activity. So you get the dividends when there's a space activity, and once a month you get not dividends, they call it rewards. But look, the idea is that we all want it to go up, but with Skitles, SKTL, this crypto, we 10% of a fund, which gets half of all Skitles that are ever created, 10% of it every year goes to cleaning up space debris, which is a problem that it's a problem that there is no other incentive to do it. The only other incentive is governments. You have governments tax people and pay because, hey, it's in our common interest to clean up space debris. Space debris, there's thousands of pieces of junk flying around the earth right now at 17,000 miles an hour. If it hits the space station, it leaves gaping holes in it. If it hits a rocket ship going up, it would knock it out of orbit. And it's going to be an increasing problem because we're sending more and more space up there with these space activities. So the way Skitles is created is that we gave away half of the tokens into a fund, half of the tokens to anybody who registered. There are no founders tokens. It's not a security. No, we didn't even keep any email addresses or phone numbers or anything. 10% every year gets donated to cleaning up space debris, companies, countries, university students who want to clean up space debris. And I think it's the first of, there are other examples, but I don't know that all of them had no founders tokens and completely did it as open as we and transparent and without any incentive for the founders to make money other than buying the token in the open market. Point being, it is the first of any other kind of good that could be created. You could do a lot of social good through cryptocurrency profit motive. And I think Skitles is the first example of doing that. Not to mention, it's the coolest cryptocurrency on the planet because it's actually marries the coolest thing ever, space, and the other coolest thing ever, cryptocurrency.
It's
And
out of this world.
Cryptocurrency on Mars someday. Say it, Cabana.
It's totally out of this world. All right, first question. Crypto Creatures asked, well, I think you may have just touched on this. Does the Skitles token have insider tokens?
I mean, it depends on what you mean by insider tokens. Let's give some definitions here. I am a volunteer as Cabana, are you considering yourself a volunteer of SKTL at this point? I think so. With you're hosting the show now.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I and anyone else who's involved with SKTLs are volunteering our time. Nobody got paid. Nobody got tokens for volunteering. We registered for the airdrop, and then some of us, like me, have gone out and bought them on Pancake Swap on the open market from other people who wanted to sell them. And the only people who are selling them are people who got them on the open airdrop. And I assume there are people who are selling their tokens to pay their electricity bill or to feed their children. And
in this market,
I'm happy that we hopefully fed people and did things as we gave away what is at this moment, if you registered for the airdrop, it's worth $800. At one point, you could have sold it for about $1,500, I think. Well, at our top, we were $35. It would have been about $1,100 if you sold it at the very tippy top a few weeks ago in SKTL tokens.
And you talking about space debris, just my first, I guess, exposure to actually visualizing that. You ever see the George Clooney, Sandra Bullock movie Gravity?
Yes.
So there's a scene in there with space debris traveling around 17,000 miles per hour.
It's terrifying. And I remember thinking, that's silly. In fact, 3 years ago is when I really started getting excited about investing in space. I think it's pretty clear that what I try to do is find the next $1 trillion economy. And I did that with Apple years ago and the smartphone concept and Google and apps and the smartphone and the apps.
Cryptocurrency.
And what's that?
Just cryptocurrency in general.
And then cryptocurrency, we stared that in 2013, which eventually became a $1 trillion economy. Tesla became, electric vehicles. We bought it years ago. It became a $1 trillion company, and that's a $1 trillion industry. I think it's clear that over the next 10 to 15 years, space is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar economy. There are going to be hotels, factories, experiments, tourism, travel, mining. Eventually, I don't know, that might be 10 or 15 years out, but all of this stuff is coming as it gets easier, cheaper, and safer to go to space every year. And what you can do in space, the innovations will continue to astound the world and change the world. So I want to get in front of the space revolution because it's a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. And space and crypto, without space debris being cleared out, it will fail. We will not get to Mars if we don't start cleaning up space debris, because there are going to be collisions of satellites. There's going to be nefarious actors. There will be nefarious countries launching missiles, blowing up satellites. I
say it's a new war theater, really. Far out, but that'll come. Maybe not as far as we think, really.
I might mention a promotion that next Tuesday and Wednesday, I will be part of an event with Jeff Bezos and Henry Kissinger and some other people. And it will be all about, mostly about how space and geopolitics are starting to, in defense of space and in space. It's going to be the next defense place for defending our citizenry.
No doubt about that. We have in chat, looks like a hello, just to put that.
That's very nice. You guys are supposed to actually chime in, but Lori and Amaris, if you happen to be listening, who is my good girl? I said Amaris is my good girl. Hi, Lincoln.
There you go.
And Lincoln and I'll be playing baseball, and hopefully we look through a telescope lately, almost 3 or 4 nights a week. And so later on tonight, we will be enjoying the space revolution from my own house with our own eyeballs.
Yeah, I missed that the recent meteor shower. I guess it was this past Saturday. I guess was peak time. But those are always fun, especially if you can get into a dark area. But light pollution and all that stuff, it's like growing and growing. So it's like harder and harder to find some place like
I live on the edge of civilization, and so
you have to have the best view. Can you see like the Milky Way and whatnot?
There's a website that, yes, and you can see the Milky Way fabulous on a clear night, which is
that's
most
awesome.
nights here too. It's on the desert,
Yeah.
and we're in the middle of nowhere. And if you go to, you can Google light pollution map, and there's several websites that will show you maps of light pollution. And where I live is just about none. If I went another 3 miles, there would literally be none. But I'm on the edge of civilization, not literally off the grid.
Gotcha. Well, let's get to some questions. I think you were in your tweet to set this up. I guess you briefly touched on it just there. So maybe we I guess digest this a little bit before we get into the question. So you were saying that space debris is the single largest risk to potentially the biggest economy ever. So you're talking, potential new theater of war, satellites getting, slammed into travel vehicles. I mean, if we're expanding and building hotels in space, like all that could be a potential target or disaster area. So when you think about how fast this economy will grow, the more I talk about it, the more I do think, yeah, this is really important if we want to expand this much.
Well, and you think about it, that you can have boats on a lake and on the ocean bump each other. Now, as a big cruiser and stuff, all bets are off. But you can have two particles, you can have two floaty devices run into each other, and it doesn't really damage anything. It doesn't matter. But the difference between junk floating in the ocean and junk floating in space is that it is moving, like I mentioned, it's 17,000 miles an hour or something. It's this incredible number that you can't even fathom. It's faster than a bullet on Earth. And so flecks of paint can knock a window out of a traveling vehicle in space because it would be moving at that speed and colliding into something that's even stationary. I mean, you can imagine puncture a hole through a human being in a spacesuit. And so this is real. And it's going to get worse. And that's where it gets scary. There's LEO, MEO, HEO. You've got different orbital planes, and the orbital plane that's the worst is low Earth orbit now, but all of these orbital planes will eventually have space debris in them in growing masses if we don't start cleaning it up. And again, there's no incentive for a space company to be like, hey, and there are companies focused on cleaning up space debris, but mostly they're picturing getting grants. I have met a company through SKTLs that we've hosted, Gary Callahan from Cislunar, that is going to try to actually use aluminum and other nickel and other stuff in the space debris to, I don't know, accelerate satellites and movements and things out there and use them for an energy basis, a source. That's, that would be a miraculous thing if it works, and it's fascinating, and I hope it does work. And I've even looked at the company and potentially investing in it down the road. But nearer term, there's no model that works except for government grant. You go get government, NASA. And NASA does. NASA already awards. We're hopefully going to partner with NASA eventually with SKTLs. I've met with some people that are making introductions that they could help figure out who are the best candidates to clean up space debris. And then, of course, the SKTLs community will vote for who actually receives our funding, but they would probably vote along with NASA in most cases, I would assume.
I would certainly think so. Let's see. We have, I guess, some broad questions here. How about let's get this one? This might be a little shorter. Are there any plans? I mean, a lot of these questions that I'm seeing in the chat are kind of like looking way down, maybe a year or 2 years, multiple years out. But are there any plans to be listed on any type of mainstream exchange?
Why is that a year or two out, really? I mean, it's a matter of...
Not this one in particular, but some of these other questions.
But the only reason we will ever be listed on a mainstream exchange is if We are if SKTLs is popular enough and the value that is created there enough, and we're talked about on news enough that, we're not going to, we've sent emails to, Coinbase and Binance and stuff, but they're not going to just randomly list a token because you email it.
Right.
It will happen. We don't control that. We've always believed that if we create a crypto that is transparent, does good, cleans up space debris, and that we've given it all away, and we're giving away the rest to cleaning up space debris, or people who own it already, that it'll take care of itself. The free market will take care of itself. There should be demand for this, because if you love space and you want space to happen, then you need SKTLs to work. You need it to succeed.
You're kind of getting into, I guess, some of the tokenomics there in terms of the holders benefiting. Would you like to just go through that as simply as possible? I know, perhaps there's people brand new to crypto. So crypto, you can have staking functions, you can have rewards. There's a lot of different things going on in this economy / industry. But for SKTLs in particular, how do holders benefit and get rewarded over time? Because I think that's one of the main things that makes this unique. There are real world events that you can look forward to happening, and you'd be like, oh my gosh, there's just a large vehicle on the moon, man, we're going to get rewarded and things like that. I mean, that's so cool.
So yeah, that actually I think is a neat, that's the profit motive, but also it's a direct correlation to every time there's a space event, there's more risk of more space debris being created. And so therefore we create more tokens, half of which are put into that fund that goes to cleaning up space debris. The other half of which are sent out to existing holders who got the free airdrop and or have gone out and bought it in the time since. And it is on a pro rata basis where, if you own 1 million tokens, you get a certain amount. If you own the 35,000 tokens that you got on the airdrop, you get a smaller amount.
And this just stop you there real quick. This doesn't just apply to people who got the airdrop. So someone can go out on the market tomorrow, buy 10,000 tokens and still qualify for this. You don't have to be an original
holder or anything. Yeah. No, that's right. That's the thing. Once someone chooses to sell you their token, then you own the rights to the further rewards from space activities. So what happens is once a month, the community gets together. We look through Wikipedia and all of the various launches that have happened in the past 30 days. We list them out, create a spreadsheet, number of satellites that were launched, number of human beings that were launched, and was there anything on the moon? Hasn't been since we launched, since SKTLs airdropped. But when there's a space event, it is how many tokens are rewarded is directly correlated to how exciting the space event is. And so in the first year, if SpaceX were to miraculously send someone to Mars, it's like 10 million tokens get printed, 5 million of which within a year, all of the tokens would be printed. 100 million tokens would be gone if we were doing all of that. But what we did is we built in a feature that makes it harder to print the tokens every year. We cut the number of tokens that are rewarded for each individual space action in half. So in 10 years, getting someone on Mars gets you a few hundred tokens, like total printed out of 300 million that'll be, or almost 300 million that would be in circulation at that point. But each individual token that gets printed at that point will theoretically have, a much larger amount of value incrementally for everybody to receive. It's a way of making it space activity related and making people excited about space, like you just said, but also making sure that every time there's more risk of more space debris being created, that there is more tokens being printed out that can then go to funding space debris being cleaned up later.
All right. So the questions that I was more so referring to for looking further down the road, these kind of go together. Crypto creatures, what do SKTLs have coming down the pipeline? And also there was another similar one. And this is, I always hear this at the beginning or before a project launches. What is the roadmap? So kind of both the same thing. So maybe we can go
back
maybe
to
for the rest
question.
of this, for the rest of, go ahead.
Question one more time. Sorry.
Just what's coming down the pipeline / what's the roadmap?
So look, from here on out, it's on autopilot in some sense. I mean, the volunteers are now doing things like, hey, let's recruit this cool crypto cabana guy and because he hosts a cool crypto show. Yeah. But really, like we were like, hey, let's reach out to Cabana. You know, Cabana's been a reader of my stock market stuff for decades, and we've traded emails. And so look, but that's the thing. We're trying to grow the community. We were reaching out to people that we know are interested in space and or cryptocurrency, and we're building more interest. We're building partnerships. I've been, like I mentioned, up in Albuquerque at a space accelerator that the Space Force is involved with. Space Force funds. And so I've been meeting people from the Space Force, the deputy director of not Space Force, but the Space Force Innovation Arm. And he's the one who's interested in potentially collaborating with SKTLs on NASA grants for cleaning up space debris. And shouldn't even probably be saying that in public, but you know, like that's exciting stuff. And that's what's coming down the pipeline. We're just out there meeting people, building the community. There is nothing else that we are going to do. There are no founder tokens to be dropped or rewarded or anything. And you know, we need to get people who are interested in space and people
golden parachutes for the founders, and you know,
nothing. No, you know, look, full disclosure, I'm happy to tell you, I have bought personally more than 1 million tokens in the open market from people who we had airdropped it to and wanted to sell it. And I don't know who they are. And I hope they fed their children or made a car payment or what the hell. I don't care. They could have sold me their SKTLs and they can go buy Bitcoin, like anything. It's all good by me. But you know, we're unique in that we set it up from the beginning. I worked with it was a disappointing day when I told the volunteers about a month into the project that, hey, my attorneys say that under no circumstance can we be financially rewarded in any way. There could be no even like value of email addresses and communications. You know, we don't have any way of reaching the people who own SKTLs. You know, it's a free market. So what's coming down the pipeline, what's the roadmap is what you people and myself choose to build. What is this roadmap? Well, Black Blood assets, welcome. And please come by the SKTLs volunteer team meeting tomorrow at 4 p.m. We'll tweet the link. It's on Twitter. You can find it from last week. We tweet it every week and invite the open public to stop by. I host the meeting basically, but frankly, the chairman of the Planetary Society, Dan Gerasi, is, you know, like he's a badass. Like he's a real CEO kind of guy. And I'm over here like a hedge fund guy. Like, you know, I'm a cowboy in New Mexico. And Dan has started leading the meetings basically. And I think that's fantastic. But that's just it. I mean, even the meetings, the weekly volunteers meetings, the only reason I've led them from the beginning is because I, you know, sort of helped create the idea and then it just happened. But we'd love for Black Blood Assets to come by tomorrow and help us figure out what our roadmap should be.
Yeah, I have the link here. I'm going to see if I can just go ahead and put this in the chat so we can have it there.
It's a better idea.
But,
see, that's why we got Crypto Cabana.
While I figured that out here, because I want to make sure I do it properly branded. This one is, I guess, more of a overall question. This company, ASTS, has a 5G to mobile test satellite they launched in September, which is about to begin unfurling, ? Any plans to work with these 5G to mobile space companies?
Again,
other examples, Starlink, Amazon. Covered.
Yes. So go back to the question so people can see it while I'm talking about AST Mobile, startup. I'm not a big fan. I don't own the stock. I've actually even bet against the stock at times past. But yes, they've got a 5G satellite that they've launched. I can't remember who launched it for them. Might have been a Rocket Lab launch. Might have been SpaceX. I don't remember. Point being, yes, they got a satellite up there, and they're supposed to start doing these service tests. It would be a potentially good solution. I think with the problem with all of this type of stuff of startups trying to do a satellite constellation of communication stuff is you are competing against that Starlink network that's out there and the abilities and capabilities that they're going to have for even 5G smartphones in 2 or 3 years. It's going to be tough to compete against that. But look, SKTLs does not have plans to work with AST Mobile, but we would love to work with AST Mobile and meet them. And we don't know them, but you can get me in contact with them, come by the SKTLs volunteers meeting tomorrow, and let's talk about AST Mobile, and let's get involved with them. I'd love to build partnerships.
There you go. Next question. How did Bitcoin grow way back in the early 2010s? How can that be replicated with SKTLs?
Bitcoin.
I guess they're all different. Like all cryptos are different. That was more of just I don't want to just call it libertarian, but it was a new way of thinking about your money. It was like freedom and, preserving what you have and being your own bank. So I think that would be a little bit more organic than, what this can be, to where people need to be educated, I would think.
I think you're right. The concept, Bitcoin's pure in its being a currency goal. Its goal to become just a de facto currency for the globe, for the universe, I guess, maybe. No, SKTLs will be the de facto currency off of the globe. But on Earth, Bitcoin probably already won. What we can apply from Bitcoin to SKTLs is the organic word of mouth growth. There was never an advertisement for Bitcoin, right? Like Satoshi never had an advertising budget. He never went on a podcast. We don't know who the guy is, for crying out loud. What'd he do? One blog post and some commentary in the code itself. Is that all there is? So,
and you have, I guess, the small group that he hung around with, and that little, I think it was like a group less than 10 people, I thought, maybe. So,
but that's what SKTLs is. SKTLs is initially a group of about 10 or 15, and now the volunteers are probably up to 30 or 40, even 50 if we count people who stop by maybe once a month. Like when Amazon counts NFL viewers on Thursday night, it's anybody who clicked on the app at one fraction of a moment, accidentally or not.
Oh, that's nice. I didn't know that.
So, point being, though, that in the grand scheme of things, I think there is a community organic growth that is probably the lesson that we could take and should take from Bitcoin. I don't want to spend money. I spent money out of my pocket, and some of the other volunteers donated money out of their pocket to pay for the attorneys, which were not cheap, and for like some of the app, like the web services, the app that the text when we did the SMS verification that you were a US or Canadian for the airdrop, so that there was no question that people on the blacklisted like Iran or North Korea were not receiving the airdrop. At any rate, that's just it. We should market organically. The thing about Bitcoin and Skittles is you don't have to explain them. Like there is no scam. There's no like hook. There's no nothing. It is what it is. Like the tokens are out there. They're given away. Now the rest of them will be printed. Half of them went to the fund. Half of them went to people. Half of them will keep going to the fund. Half of them will keep going to the people. And every year the fund donates 10% of its tokens to clean up space debris. So like it either you want to be involved with it or you don't. And it, again, when we created it, we truly thought that if we do something that was ethical and virtuous and open and transparent and did something that was had a social good, in this case for space, that the free market would reward it eventually. And I still hope and believe that that is the promise of cryptocurrency.
Just for those who are interested, there's the weekly call. So feel free to join. And what time is that call?
It is 4 p.m. Eastern, market close on Wednesdays every week.
Wednesdays, plural. So all of them. There you go.
We've been doing it. I've missed one Wednesday meeting, and I bet it's been a year now. I bet we've been doing these. I bet we launched the idea was hatched. When was the first time we came up with this idea?
I want to say years ago, because that's when I first read about trading with Cody, right?
Well, I talked about investing in crypto in 2013.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm saying
I'm just talking Skittles. Yeah.
I'm going to look up. I'm going to see how.
I'll search my email records and see when the first mention was.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm doing. Here we go. It is. Yep. October 4th, 2021. We should have had
an anniversary party, something. I don't know. But yeah, October 4th. That's the same date I have. So yeah, I found. Question: how has Skittles crypto changed during the crypto winter? Because yes, we have been in quite the bear for, I think, more than a year now. How was it affected? I mean, if I can just chime in, just in terms of price, that is the time to launch a project. Because
right, absolutely. I was so excited that we did not launch it. Everybody wanted to launch. It was like, hey, if we could get this thing out while Bitcoin's still at like 50 or 60,000, 65,000, get it out. Launch now. And I was like, no, hopefully not. We do not want to launch at the top. And so, Skittles came out in May, Space Day, first Friday of May last, 6 months ago or 7 months ago, whatever that is, 5 months ago. Mm-hmm. And crypto had already started crashing. It certainly has continued to crash quite a bit since then. But Skittles itself has not changed whatsoever. The price has frankly hung in there better than any other crypto I know of. Do you know of any other crypto that's, like Skittles at its all-time high was 3.5 cents maybe?
Yeah, I mean, most are down 75 to 90+%. I mean, that's talking the majors too, like a Bitcoin. So
right, like Bitcoin, Ethereum are down 70% from their high.
Yeah. And
so Skittles is down 30% from its high, maybe a little more than that, but not by much. It's hung in there, but again, it, like nobody knows about it. And the only way it goes down is if someone goes out and hits the bid, sells their tokens. There are people
that's the thing. That's a great point there. It's lack of sellers, right? So, it's if people don't want to sell, we're not going to have a huge crash in Skittles. Like,
Cabana, if you would listen to this note for a second.
Yeah.
I had someone reach out to me last week looking to buy like institutional size, like hundreds of thousands or something, a Skittle token.
Cody Willard bags.
And I've, I asked.
They're probably not out there.
I reached out to the volunteers. I was like, hey, anybody want to unload any of their SKTLs? I've got someone interested. And every single one of them said, not at this price. But if the guy wants to bid the price up,
Right.
Like they're all interested at a certain price.
Well, that's great. That kind of proves my point.
Yeah. They'll go into Pancake Swap and sell it to you at some point. But nobody's interested anywhere near here. Maybe 5 times, 10 times this price, you'll start getting some bids. I think if you snuck in, if you really wanted to buy, even $10,000 of this token here, you could probably get it done keeping it under 4 or 5 cents. You would probably run it to an all-time high because there's not a lot of liquidity. We did not fund the liquidity pools or anything until after launch. And then we realized we needed more liquidity, and we did. The community voted. We sold. We issued 5 million tokens, again, half of which went to holders, half of which went to the fund. The fund took its part, immediately went and sold those. Not immediately, but slowly but surely sold those at maybe 5 or 10% at a time over the course of a month, and put 500,000 tokens of liquidity into. That's how much it was. It was 500,000 tokens of liquidity are in the SKTLs token pool from the fund, and the fund will never take them out. And those tokens you could go buy up, but the algorithm would run that up, obviously. The higher you take it, I do think there are people that would come in and sell their tokens. Even at 3 or 4 cents, if you receive the airdrop at 4 cents, you're talking $1,500. I mean, there are a lot of people out there that I think would be willing to sell half their tokens for $500 or $600 and take some of that out because they got it for free. So that person, whoever you are, if you want tokens, you're just going to have to go to Pancake Swap and slowly but surely buy them at $100 or $200 increments.
There you go. Let's see. I had a couple of other questions. I also posted in the chats. We have about 20 minutes till the top of the hour here. Post any other questions. We do have time for some more. I do have one here. You were just talking about Pancake Swap. Why did you choose Binance Smart Chain to launch on as opposed to an Ethereum? I think I know the answer, but I would like to.
Yeah, originally I was I wouldn't even have conversations about launching on anything other than Ethereum. It was like one of my, that is the one rule. I think it's critical mass. Ethereum is going to be here forever. And as we quickly learned was it was going to take tens of thousands of dollars to airdrop the tokens, the first airdrop on Ethereum. When we started digging in, we then said, okay, what are the Ethereum ERC20 other networks, the other chains that we could get involved with that have much lower gas prices? So then the next step was Binance is probably the biggest, not the biggest ERC20 network that's not Ethereum itself. And so we chose, and then the gas fees on that ended up being a few $100s. I don't remember. For the drop. Yeah. Yeah. For the airdrop. When we airdrop the tokens, when you airdrop the token, you pay the crypto. All the
transaction costs. Yeah. So that has to be paid somehow. Yeah.
So so we had to pay that out of pocket. When you receive the token, you don't have to pay an airdrop. Or do you? I think you actually might. It's like an 8-cent fee or something that you end up having to pay to get the Binance.
Might have to add the coin or something like that. I'm more familiar with the.
You do have to add the coin for sure. Yeah. Again, with critical mass, with popularity, eventually the people who own those tokens, who got that airdrop, will be able to go to their Cash app, their Venmo app, their PayPal app, their hopefully in 5 years their Chase Bank app, and be like, oh, I'm going to sell my crypto, like SKTLs that I got on that airdrop 6 years ago. And they would be able to just do it. And it's a matter of critical mass. They'll be able to do it with Bitcoin in 5 years in their Chase app. If SKTLs is big enough, they'll do it in that one too.
That leads to a bigger crypto discussion, which would be fun. So maybe we can have that on the trading with Cody thing, because that's the whole interesting idea there that has taken so long to develop is, these cryptos as currencies. And anyway,
I don't think so. Let's hit on it real quick.
Yeah.
Look, Bitcoin it's a de facto currency. It did its job. The rest of them,
but now it's seen more as a store of value, and it's like it's not really a currency anymore.
Doesn't matter. Like, what's the definition of a currency? Does it have to be?
I mean, you can exchange it, but say, it's like, hey, I'm gonna send you some Bitcoin tomorrow, and it's like $20,000 right now, and tomorrow it could be 17, and then it's just like, oh well, I don't have enough to send you because I promised you 20K, but
I think, Cabana, we're getting there. We're only 10 or 12 years into this, and money's been around for 1,000 years. And in 5 years, it will be a lot more standard to even just be to be using Bitcoin to buy your electricity to charge your EV.
I mean, I think you still need something more stable.
Direct
play on words there.
No,
I mean,
you don't.
Yeah, stable coins, because these things move up and down too much in price, I think.
But again,
unless Bitcoin is like $3 million a coin, then who cares? Because then it is pretty much a de facto.
I think we over 10,000. Who cares? It's already there. Who cares?
Like, it just moves so much. It's too volatile, I think, right now.
Go look at a sterling, a pound sterling chart. Go look at a euro. The dollar to euro. Go look at a dollar to Japanese yen right now. You can be in the most developed.
That's fair.
Most developed economy out that's not the United States, and your currency is down 30, 40, even 70% in some cases over the last year. So it's a snapshot in time. Bitcoin's down badly from its highs, and it is wildly volatile, but it just got reframed by the volatility in the fiat currency market that has happened in the last year, and the idea that Bitcoin is actually less volatile than those, that seed's been planted, and Bitcoin won the de facto currency game.
Interesting. I still say that's up for debate just because of it's so slow, and I think Ethereum is going to be, it already is way faster, but it's like, I don't know. Anyway, we can go down that path another time. Next question, and this was kind of what I was going to ask as a follow-up to the previous question. Does SKTLs plan to be on other networks besides BSC, or examples Ethereum, Polygon, Cardano, etc.?
Great question. Thanks, BHOP1980. And thank you for serving, I assume. And by the way, if you're an active military member, you can go to email support@tradingwithcody.com. I charge $1,249 a year for the service unless you're an active military member or you're an active police officer. Then you just email us, I put you on our distribution list, and I assume that if you ever stop serving, I can't give every veteran a free subscription. But if you're actively serving, actively policing, please email support@tradingwithcody.com. Let them know, and we'll give you a complimentary subscription. We've talked about it. We've talked about the idea of forking to just last week on the SKTLs meeting for 10 or 15, 20 minutes. We talked about the concept of going over to Cardano. I don't think so. We certainly don't have the resources to do it right now. I'm not going to pay anyone to do the heavy lifting that would be required. And there would be some, there always is some programming that needs to be done. And I can build a website, but I can do a little HTML coding, but I ain't building a crypto. The guy who helped us build our crypto, the lead developer on our crypto, is higher up at the largest social network in the world, who does programming for them for a living. And that's who, I can't go to him and be like, let's fork the network. And why would we right now anyway? It's too early. Like, let's get some critical mass here. If SKTLs is worth, $100 million instead of $4 million or what is our market cap right now? $4 or $5 million? Is that about right? If it's $100 million or $1 billion, then yeah, we can talk about funding, and there would be enough community resources to certainly have a vote and talk about forking onto another network or doing something like that. But not right now. No, it's not in the roadmap currently. But if the community demands it, it sure would be.
Selfishly, I'd vote for Ethereum, but just long-term plans, and I don't know. I just see that one being the one that I feel.
I agree with you that Ethereum appears to be the one that has won, but it has a problem with this gas fee.
Yes,
and I like.
If you're trying to build a base, I guess, of users and holders, you don't want people not coming in specifically because their transactions are $20 each. So, I feel you. I think we're caught up on the questions right now. I do have just maybe a couple general topics I just jotted down so people that aren't really familiar with SKTLs may ask. So they see these terms all over the website, and they're explained depending upon where you look, but we can just go over a couple right now. What is or who makes up what function does the SKTLs Advisory Council serve? Sounds like the Jedi Council or something. You sit in a circle above a planet.
No, actually, we probably need to update the website because there's not really an advisory council required anymore. The advisory council was put in place initially because we weren't sure how the community was going to vote on the space activities. We just sort of needed to get the crypto out, and then we were hope that we would figure out some of the community voting and the community power, true decentralization part of it. And it was ironic when I was launching that, and this is always sort of like the irony of most cryptos, is that there ends up being a lot of centralization, a lot like a key figure, a key group, a key something that is sort of controlling it. I might host the volunteer meeting, but hell, we have no more power than anyone else except of the website, really. But at this point, the community does it all, votes on it all. The advisory board was there to count up the space activities and things until we figured out that literally we could host a vote on snapshot.org, or I think it's the website that we use. But no, I don't even, like Neil Patrick Harris is one of our advisories. He's one of my best friends. I asked him to join the board because he thinks space is cool and wanted to be involved with the cool crypto. And I was like, yeah, man. So he joined, and he's still, involved voluntary wise, but I guess there is no advisory board now, Cabana.
All right. We'll see. This is what I get for perusing the website, and now we can, make those changes.
Yeah.
Or whoever can do so. Could you go in just a little bit into the DAO and how that works? And, because this is another term that people new to crypto, they just see crypto on the screen, they see their crypto balance, but they also see perhaps terms like rewards and DAO, and it's like, okay, then they maybe start to feel like they're getting lost in the weeds. So could you explain like the DAO?
It's not
decentralized
DAO.
Autonomous.
Yes, decentralized autonomous organization, not the traditional DAO. But look, the idea is, and this goes back to what we were initially talking at the very beginning, that the DAO is where you set up the organization from the onset, and then you write those rules into the smart contracts and publish it. And those rules are then set in stone unless the community comes and changes them, I suppose. But and that's what the DAO is. Once you give the community control, once you've sent out the tokens, once the advisory board no longer has any place to help because the community itself can count the space actions that need to be rewarded, and then they can punch the buttons to do it too eventually. That the decentralized autonomous organization is that. It is the idea that the community controls it all, and there is no autonomy of the SKTLs centralized organization. And the DAO that we put together sets out those rules that we've talked about ad nauseum here about the fund and the holders and the rewards, and the idea that eventually we will be the de facto, that SKTLs will be the de facto currency on Mars. But that's and that's it. The DAO, you can think of it as a charter, like a corporate charter, except that there are no board members, shareholders, et cetera, et cetera. The DAO is an organization that collectively, if you have any part of the blockchain that says your wallet has the rights to this cryptocurrency, hashtag number thingy.
Kind of like those email notifications that you get for shareholder votes, something like that. If you want to simplify it.
But there would be no board of meeting, there's no centralized control whatsoever at this point. And I guess there's a tiny iota of centralized control in SKTLs, and we need to discuss that on the next volunteers meeting, how to get our programmers to open up and teach the community how to do the reward function, so that we've got to figure that out. We need to do that. It would be the last piece of autonomy that is still centralized.
Got it. And I think that pretty much takes us through most of the questions. We do have up on the channel, and I do believe this is going to be more of a thing going into the future, but there is a how to import the SKTLs token and install MetaMask quick 5-minute video, just kind of an educational thing on the SKTLs channel now. So that's great. So just for learning purposes, we're going to be doing, as far as I understand, making more of these types of videos. How can we interact and get more people, onboard people, and yeah. What you got there?
Just reading about space. Space encyclopedia and space book.
That book cover could be an NFT almost, but yeah.
Yeah, both of those could actually. These are cool. How about this? This would be funny. Actually, I should have had this in the middle. TRS 80 instruction guide.
Do you know what is that one?
Do you even know what a Tandy TRS 80 is?
It's like you got those at Radio Shack, right?
Yeah, okay. Wow. All right. Did you have one, Cabana?
I go back a few years, man.
Did you have a Commodore 64?
I had a Atari 2600. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
I kept this because I thought this cover was just awesome. I've kept this for, 40 years. I found it in my parents' attic a couple decades ago, and I took it to New York with me even, and now it's back in New Mexico because I think it's fun.
And it's in exceptional condition.
And it's also just a funny, I could pull it out in the middle of a space crypto YouTube live stream, and I don't know if anybody's laughing. It probably actually is not funny at all.
Type your laughs and laugh emojis in the chat.
You know what my daughter tells me all the time? She's 8 years old, and she's like, "Dad, you're only funny when you don't try to be." So I tried to be funny. Nobody's laughing. Now it's not in good condition anymore.
You ruined that. All right. I guess just a fun one before we close, because you also run another great service, tradingwithcody.com,
Oh,
where you deal with the space revolution. So I don't, maybe don't want to talk the book too much, but if there were a space company not named SpaceX that you would think would be around 10 years from now, does it exist yet?
yeah, I think there's a big five. I think there's a big five space companies.
5.
Actually.
Okay.
Yeah. SpaceX, Blue Origin, Rocket Lab, Axiom Space, and Relativity Space. Those would be the big five. And look, I mean, Lockheed Martin, Boeing. I mean, we can talk. Those are clearly sort of
they've
space
been around
companies, but let's talk companies that are space centric and have been created in the last 2 decades, 3 decades, 2 decades even. So, look, out of the batch of current companies, I think there's 5 pretty clear winners. I think Planet Labs. I think Terran Orbital. A couple other publicly traded ones that are worthy of looking at, but I don't think they have clearly the road map. That it's not a road map, the launch map, the trajectory map.
Yeah,
that the
space coordinate map.
And without a doubt, to be frank, also SpaceX is and Blue Origin are, SpaceX is
leaps and bounds above. Yeah.
Then Blue Origin is somewhere close, and then the other guys are down at they're not even near what SpaceX and Blue Origin are doing right now.
And SpaceX is obviously private, right? So it's like
I do think Starlink will be coming public in the next year. That's a division of Starlink and of SpaceX. I think it's already sort of spun out. It's its own division, its own company already. But I think eventually they'll do an IPO with that and get some funding out of that and raise billions of dollars for SpaceX.
Oh yeah, billions. That'll be a huge IPO, but it's not the
question. Does Blue Origin ever go public? I think that's a tougher question. I have not bought. I just today was looking. You can go out and buy some Blue Origin in the private market from employees who are trying to get out of some of their shares. The fees are outrageous, and then number 2, I don't know that Bezos has plans for like 10 years to take Blue Origin public, 5 years at minimum. And so it'd be a long tie-up of your capital to invest in Blue Origin at this stage. But if I had to pick 2, it'd be Blue Origin and SpaceX. And if I had to pick a publicly traded 2 or 3, it'd be Rocket Lab, Planet, and Terran Orbital, with Rocket Lab clearly bigger and better than the others.
Because they're actually, as you say, putting rockets into space.
Actively. Yeah, and it's succeeding almost, knock on wood, almost every time.
Yeah.
All right, man. I'm going to go eat.
Yeah, we are coming up on an hour where I guess we'll just put words out there that we will do this in about a month's time from now. Sometime in November, we're going to have another one of these. So spread the word. And if you have more questions, bring people in here and have them ask questions. Also, come to the Zoom meeting every Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern. So I have that link there in the chat as well. Any other closing remarks?
Hey, I appreciate your time, Cabana. I appreciate all of the SKTL volunteers. I would have just like to give a shout out to everyone. And Antoine, please stop by the SKTLs meeting tomorrow. Everybody, come by. Let's make this thing succeed. So that the space revolution can succeed.
You heard it there, and we will see you a few more weeks back for another stream. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and until next time, cheers everybody.